G-Day is almost here, and we're back to dive into what we hope to see. I'm Keegan, my co-host is Cheeto, and this is Dogs Off the Leash.
Let's go.
I do it for the dogs. Do it for the dogs. Do it for the dogs. I do it for the dogs. I do it for my dogs. Who you do it for? 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 I do it for the dogs.
Cheeto, good to see you, bro. How is your week going?
Yeah, this week was a little bit of a slow start, especially after, a guy's trip. Went to Kentucky, saw some buddies, essentially got rained out of most of the stuff we wanted to do. We had a horse race and we're going to play some golf. Speaking of golf, we got the Masters on right now. We'll talk about that. Watched a lot of the Final Four. And I hate to do it, but I feel like we kind of have to, shout out to Florida for their impressive run and impressive finish. UGA being one of the few teams to beat them this year, I think says a lot about where the state of the Georgia program's at. And then overall for the SEC, to have a dominant year throughout the regular season, represented well in the playoffs, and that end with a champion, I think it says a lot about how much they're investing into basketball. And it was actually nice to see for a change that it wasn't just the ACC and your typical conferences just running through everybody. So yeah, shout out.
Yeah, basketball seems to be flipped upside down, and I guess with all of Florida's success in the basketball program and compared to their other programs, maybe one could even say Florida's a basketball school now.
Yeah, that's number 3 for them. Obviously, people remember around here, the Horford teams, the other guy who played for Chicago and that squad going back to back. So to add this, especially after we take one of their better coaches in Mike White, who's doing good things here, to do that in 1, 2, 3 years or whatever the turnaround's been, I got to give them a little bit of props. And Lord knows when the next championship they're going to see is. So when they're on the table, you got to go get them.
Yeah, I will say it was a very defensive game. It felt like a throwback game, and shout out to Florida to really being able to squeeze it out there at the end. But it is spring football, and it is a treat to have football on this side of the year. With as many questions we have about production and staunch opponents on the schedule, luckily Georgia is more talented than ever. It is a perfect time for Georgia to have this amount of talent that they have. Rooms like the tight end, wide receiver, cornerback, and linebacker seem to have an onslaught of competition that hopefully lends itself to rotational game plans, keeping bodies fresh, the players engaged. Cheeto, where are you in these couple of rooms where you're looking to, quote, see something from them come Saturday?
Yeah, I told you kind of getting ready for this podcast and just kind of thinking to myself, brainstorming or whatever. I'm actually pretty excited about this team. Now, to Kirby's point, the depth is kind of lacking in some areas, some of that due to injuries during the spring, some of it due to just youth at the 2, 3 on the depth chart in that room. So in the places we'll talk about, some places are kind of lacking, and I think Kirby's probably well suited to address some of those via the portal. But also we're going to have to deal with our own portal transfers. So that is all going to kind of be in flux after G-Day, but we definitely want to hit the depth chart. Do you want to start offense or defense, Keegan?
We can kick it off with the offense.
All right, if we're going to kick it off with the offense, for me, it's the wide receiver room. And I think it's just because of the dramatic shift from what we had to deal with last year. A lot of drops, not a lot of size getting into the season because of the dismissals for discipline or whatever have you. So we ended up losing a lot of production that we were counting on. But this year, we get Colby Young back. We have Noah Thomas coming from Texas A&M. Zachariah Branch looking like he's going to be the one in the slot, an explosive player, a hard worker. Him and his brother are going to contribute to this program. Sokovie White behind him. London Humphrey at the Z position, and another highly recruited 5-star and Talon Taylor behind him. Then you have Dylan Bell. And I think it says a lot about this wide receiver room to where last year Dylan Bell was kind of like our best receiver to count on him, right? And even he had some drops in some big moments. I'll go back to the Notre Dame game. But now with the roster, it looks like he may be the second, maybe even the third best wide receiver on this depth chart. So I think that screams optimism when somebody who's proven, who is super talented, if he has an up year from last year and is still your third best wide receiver, I think that gives Bobo a ton of weapons. More importantly, Gunnar Stockton, who I think throws a better deep ball. Now it's about deciding how many wide receivers versus tight ends, the rooms you're really excited about, do you keep on the field? And one thing I know about Kirby, the best players will play.
That's true, and it's in a perfect world. Everyone stays happy, and we all just take turns kicking ass, right? That's what I hope to see. I don't know if it'll go down that way, but there's one thing for certain. The wide receiver room is oozing with talent. So, yeah, I do hope to see what G-Day kind of provides just in the looks that we'll see on the field. But then when you consider, you mentioned a ton of names. I don't think you even said Cole Spear. I don't think you said some of the other freshmen that are coming in that aren't named Talon Taylor that are also potential contributors. And, whoever else.
CJ Wiley's on that list. If I didn't mention him, I apologize.
Yeah, CJ Wiley, there you go. So, and it's hard to keep up with the names, right? But that's not the point. The point being is there are certain rooms, wide receiver being one of them, where you just hope that they can find a happy rotation because you got 4 or 5 guys that for various reasons could be your starter. While there may be a favorite in all these rooms, it's a good problem to have. So, yeah. Same thing in tight end room. It seems like Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky will really lead the charge there. But Ethan Barbour has really proven himself to be someone that can make an impact this year even. And Jaden Riddell, even though he looks like he's playing a badass football player in a movie and got the highlight reel and etc., he's finally starting to work his way into this offense in meaningful snaps. So you got those 2 guys behind Oscar and Lawson, and then of course Elias Williams to boot, the cherry on top, the guy that I think has all the makings to be an all-time great. So you're talking about a star-studded room. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw a transfer. I mean, I know that Todd Hartley is really good at keeping these guys, and a lot of these dudes are really bought in on being tight ends at Georgia, and to them, that might mean a little bit more in a brotherhood sense and in the development sense. And hey, maybe all these guys stick around, and we're talking about had just listed at the end of the season, but can't count on that. Cheeto, where are you in your assessment of the tight end room, and do you have any favorites? Because, for as much talk as there is about Elias Williams, it's Ethan Barbour who seems to be making a big impact and might see even more playing time too because he can block so well.
Yeah, for me, looking at the room, obviously Oscar Delp's going to be gone after this year. He could have gotten drafted this year with a high grade, wanted to come back and finish out the way that he felt was appropriate. So he's going to be gone next year. Lawson Lucky balls out a little bit, grows with the route running, has great hands already, spectacular catches at the end of last year. If he has a good year, it may be beneficial for him to go too, because I'm telling you right now, this next crop of tight ends are better than the really good ones we have right now. Jaden Riddell, honestly, is the way he catches 50-50 balls and just mosses people. Talk about a red zone threat. He's not the biggest, but probably the best hands since Brock. As good as Lawson Lucky is, I think Jaden Riddell has better hands, especially with that catch radius. I don't know how he is run after catch. We'll see how he develops there. And then Elias, obviously, as good as he is, Barbour is getting even more praise. And again, there's a lot of things that go into it. Well coached, route running, physical attributes. I'm very happy with where our tight end room is. I hope we don't lose any. And I'm hoping this new revenue sharing talk in the NCAA, maybe that slows down the movement of players. Like, hey, I may not be starting, but I know I'm going to get a piece of this revenue. I love the development. I'm really happy here at UGA, and I want to be the next Brock Bowers if I just wait my turn. Hopefully that's what's going to happen, but I feel really good about the tight end room. So wide receiver and tight end, Gunner's got all the weapons. Running back, I think we're all pretty settled on Nate Frazier being the number 1. Plenty of contributors until our other 2 running backs come back. But Keegan, for you, is there another position on offense that you have a concern about? Or maybe you're more intrigued because we have to figure out what's going on in this room?
Absolutely. I think offensive line is very intriguing because we need to establish a rotation. There's more unknown, unproven talent in the offensive line room, more so than maybe any other. So while having guys like Monroe Freeling at left tackle and Drew Bobo at center, Daniel Calhoun at guard, all being banged up, it is certainly not ideal, but it has worked out that more reps have trickled downstream through the depth chart, and more importantly, a functional rotation, seeing which combination of this group of guys gels and has the most success. Unfortunately, we have plenty of guys we want to get looks as a part of a starting rotation, so I'll touch on a few. Guys that have been mixing in currently with Ernest Green and Micah Morris that I think could be enough quality dudes to have true depth and that we all could trust this season. And here we go, Cheeto. First, Jamal Merriweather and he's been looking nice at tackle. Secondly, Bo Hughley, he looks really great long-term as a tackle. This season, we might be able to mix him in earlier as a guard. And the guy I'm most hype about is Ja Jackson, 6'10", 350 pounds, talented hooper in his sophomore year. Came in the program, not necessarily understanding as much about the fundamentals of football, but news out of spring practice is that he's getting great reps. This is a guy that could be, a big-time star at Georgia, but for this season, at least provide great depth. And I think having that type of size, building the strength, and now understanding the offense more with the basketball footwork that he was known for. Even on the court, he was pretty savvy for a big man on the court, and even a big man in basketball is going to have a little bit better footwork than a potential just big man in football, right? So he's got some skill to him, and I think that those three guys that I listed are really going to be the rotational depth that we need for this offensive line when we get the three back. And then last but not least, the beast from the East, make this shit up, but the freshman phenom, Juan Gaston, one with the J, big time prospect, far ahead for his age, could play guard or tackle. We'll see what it looks like by week 1 against Marshall, but those are the guys that I'm really looking forward to seeing how they fit in this offensive line rotation for G-Day. And, that gives us kind of like eight or nine quality dudes. And Georgia does not lack, but we'll just see how we can make it gel and get these guys kind of working together, because that's really what it all boils down to.
Yeah, I think the offensive line has a chance to be a really cohesive unit. I love it. I love it. Those guys have been talked about since they got out of high school, and this is an opportunity being banged up on the line and being less deep as we have been moving forward. And again, it's going to be important for Gunner, because Gunner needs to work on his pocket awareness, also needs to have that mental clock in his head, like 3-second splits is coming around. I got to get rid of it, got to make a play. Talked about Gunner and Puglisi. Cotton Gin. Is it Colton Gin or Cotton?
Colton Gin. Cotton.
Okay, Cotton Gin. Sorry, Eli Whitney. Colton Gin. I wrote down as Cotton. And then Hezekiah Miller behind him, with Montgomery still being out. But with that, the quarterback room is going to start fleshing itself out. Obviously, Jared Curtis is making his decision early next month. And then Keegan, you were telling me a little bit about a player that I'd heard his name before, but hadn't looked into him, and Bo Hentley. And you want to talk about a little bit about what may be a plan A, plan B situation going into 26 for Georgia?
Might as well. So we've talked about Jared Curtis. Jared Curtis seems to be the well-rounded, highly polished, highly touted prospect. And there's a good chance that Oregon may be a more willing NIL suitor. We'll see. I mean, I know we're willing to pay, but do we really got Oregon money? Like, there are levels to this. So
that's why the cap is so important, I think. So a school like Oregon can't just far and away outdo you. So curious to see, man.
Yeah, and this could be one of those historic battles based on the timing of the changes upcoming. But with that said, if it were to be the case, Georgia could be landing instead a guy by the name of Bo Bentley that I think would be putting Georgia sitting very pretty. He really plays with the passion and the fire that Kirby most recently has been preaching about. He throws his receivers open. He handles pressure at a great clip and seems to have a swagger factor about him that I think is quite undeniable. If you guys have not seen, it's just for like his most recent, maybe it was like his junior season, but dude had high level highlight tape. And the one thing that I was telling Cheeto before the podcast is that he throws on the run at an elite level. I mean, some of the throws he's putting out, I'm not kidding. Like, for one, it's the volume of the fact that he is doing it. It's not like luck or on accident if he can do it that often. But the other thing I'd say is that, you almost see that level of skill from a guy like a Patrick Mahomes, or I don't know, some of these other guys that really can throw with the arm angles and that kind of thing. So Bo Bentley is that dude. He plays with a lot of fire, runs dudes over, rolls out. So if Jared Curtis does not go Georgia's way, and I think Bo Bentley is not by any means a consolation prize, and I sent Cheeto the highlights. Cheeto, what did you think of this dude, Bo Bentley?
Yeah, he really gave me the arm angles. Definitely scream Patrick Mahomes. I know that everybody wants to make a comp that, but check his arm angles. He throws it from the slot. He throws it over the top a little bit. Like a baseball player from Texas. Those are easy comps. But when he takes off and when he wants to make plays and He's around in the pocket. He really gave me Kyler Murray vibes for the Arizona Cardinals. A little bit taller, only 6'1", so not like super tall, but that type of frame, that kind of hybrid QB. And I just think that's perfect for college right now. I think a lot of his game is what Puglisi's going to give us, but Puglisi having a little bit bigger body, kind of like a Josh Allen. So really excited about that. And keeping that talent in this room, regardless if it's Curtis or Bo Bentley, sorry for the saying his name wrong. I think that's what you need, because as it stands right now, I saw a way too early list in the SEC for quarterbacks. This league next year is going to be stacked with quality quarterbacks. I mean, it's crazy. You got Arch Manning over at Texas. LSU's had Nussmeier for, I feel like, 6-7 years, but we all know that he can throw for 1,000 yards in his sleep, and he's probably going to. Lenore Sellers at SC, DJ Lagway, who, if he doesn't go down in the game that we play them, that score is going to be a little bit different. Don't know if they come away with the win, but nonetheless, that just goes to show how good Lagway is and is going to be. Nico at number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Diego Pavia. And then me personally, I would have put Gunnar Stockton around the number 7. This article had him about 11, but after the 7 position, you have Oklahoma's quarterback, A&M's quarterback, Ole Miss's quarterback, Auburn, and then Alabama last. So not the usual suspects as far as great quarterback play, but great quarterback play nonetheless. It is going to be an important year for good defenses. And I think that's an easy transition to talk about the defensive side and the depth chart over there. Keegan, what part on the defense are you most excited about and most concerned about?
The battle that seems to really have my interest right now is in the cornerback room. The question really is who's going to be starting on the other side of proven senior Dalen Everett. You know, Ellis Robinson is just a one-of-a-kind prospect, badass, has elite ball skills, but in spring practice, you know, DeMello Jones has gotten a lot of hype, a lot of praise. People say that he is a straight dog, and Daniel Harris is more so the veteran who's got more experience, who, you know, might be the guy that you can kind of trust in certain situations more.
And
so
he's 6'2" and long as
Yeah.
a DB. He's huge for a DB.
Yeah, so there you go. And he's got the physical intangibles to pair with that. So all three are fighting and making a case to get playing time.
That room is solid. The whole DB room is giving me confidence, but the depth at the cornerback position, like you said, Dalen Everett is going to be a starter. It's going to get drafted really high. Ellis Robinson, we'll see if he wins out as the starter, but he's going to contribute. And the noise that DeMello Jones, his work ethic and his hustle, his just winning ball player mentality, all of these guys are going to contribute. Can you swallow your ego and worry about development and get your NIL money, but don't let that be the focus, because other teams are going to come calling. If you'll sit in here, you are going to play for Georgia, a chance to win a national championship, an SEC championship, and you will go to the league. These 4 will go to the league. They have all the physicals. They're learning from the best DB coaches in the country. Super excited about this room. Even if they want to, in a situation at the star position, they're already talking about putting one of the corners there, because Aguero, who I'm excited about, is more of a run supporter at that star position versus a cover corner. So a lot of depth. I know it's not as many returning productive reps as we've seen before, but I mean, you go to KJ Bolden over there. We got the star, just talked about that. And then whoever fills that position, I'm really looking forward to that room contributing at a high level, especially with all the quarterbacks that we just mentioned in the SEC.
Yeah, and just intriguing on the transfer note, both of the dudes that we brought in, I cannot keep up with everyone, but I remember that they both of the dudes that we brought in were
At safety, Zion Branch and Arian Maddox are kind of the ones that are kind of leading the pack. And then Harris is also bound to contribute as well, too. So that room's starting to look a little bit better, but we got to see who turns out to be the bona fide starter after spring.
Is one of those guys is not Branch, but is the other dude the one from UAB?
Maddox.
Okay, yeah. So Maddox really intrigues me as a prospect. And then Branch, like Kirby's already been bragging on him. So there's not a room on this whole roster that is really like truly worrisome, but it will be good hard work for the coaches to kind of pay very close attention to these competitions because you got a lot of dudes that really could play, really could contribute, and you just hope that you have enough of them stick around so we have the depth to make a push. But I mean, with what we got now, dude, there's not a doubt in my mind that it's up there with the most talented teams that Georgia has ever had, and definitely that Kirby's ever coached.
Let me take that and shift it just a bit to where the secondary looks really good. Corners and safeties and stars. Got a lot of experience or young super talent there, right? The defensive line is a bit of an issue. And when you look at it on paper, right? So at the nose tackle, what we're looking at right now is McLeod starting there, and then Nasir Johnson and Jordan Thomas, right? That is a slim, small, low volume room than what we're compared to from what we've had in years past with these D linemen up front, right? That was our bread and butter during the run. I do expect Kirby to hit the portal here, right? This and the defensive end position, the standard defensive end position, that heavy person, not these hybrid guys. We have hybrid guys all over, but at the defensive end position, you got Justin Green, right? He hasn't produced yet, so this is kind of like a first timer. And then Jonah Joseph Ajanye after that. I expect him to be good, just not this early. At the line of scrimmage, high level SEC play, you don't just walk in and take over. Same thing for Elijah Griffin, and we'll talk about that, right? But when you lose Michael Williams to the NFL draft, who was on the heavier side of that hybrid defensive end, and then Damon Wilson, who I thought was going to just eat this year, that's a loss, right? So you're left with guys like Gabe Harris, those hybrids, and trying to figure out who's going to be where, Isaiah Gibson, and what they're going to do. So I think that if anywhere is going to be addressed by the transfer portal. And then at defensive tackle, I feel a little bit more comfortable with Christian Miller and Jordan Hall, who should both have all SEC seasons when they get healthy. So that's the only question mark on this roster that I see right now, but it's very addressable if you have some candidates around the country and the SEC in mind.
I think that a quality enough hybrid kind of guy can cover what you lack sometimes, but I'm with you that you can't do too much of that. But with that said, the fellow that they call Q, Quintavious Johnson, has been showing that he potentially could be that guy. And he wasn't really scheduled to be that guy or, on paper, he's not supposed to be that guy, but he might be that guy. So that's something to kind of look at. And then, also there is a thing in coaching where players that coaches coach the hardest are the guys that sometimes it's the guys they just need to be the best or they need to be better. But at the same time, a lot of times it's, guys that coaches believe in. And Gabe Harris has been getting a lot of coaching and a lot of criticism, and his name has come up oftentimes from Kirby at press conferences, basically talking about that he's not quite where he wants him to be, but it's not his fault, and et cetera. So we shall see what these guys can do. But yeah, the defense, I think, overall looks stout. And the thing I told you before the podcast is that the speed of this defense really could be our saving grace if they can just know enough of the playbook and know what to do. I do think that overall, like, you could make arguments here and there where certain players might have been faster, but I think the defense as a whole, even the team as a whole, has gotten faster, So
I think that also depends on what we're going to see in offenses this year, right? If we see a lot of power running teams, we might be in more trouble because we don't have the big bodies, especially down the depth chart that we used to. But if it's dual quarterback, spread option, wide zone type of stuff, right? Outside, we got all the speed to cover the field from edge to edge, and we haven't even started with the linebackers yet, the strength of this defense. So I think to your point, hybrids and lighter guys aren't always bad, but it will be dependent on how offenses choose to attack you, right? If they're A gaps, B gaps heavy, thank God we don't really play with fullbacks anymore, like fullback leading a dive down the middle. We would struggle with that right now, but we'll see what the defensive front's going to look like moving forward after the spring.
I totally agree with that, but that's also a perfect place for Elijah Griffin to insert his presence on this defense and maybe be that guy that can answer the call because he could be. So and eventually he probably will be, but will it be this year? That's to be seen. So
I doubt that.
We'll keep an eye on that.
And then to wrap it up with the linebackers as a whole, most of the noise coming out of camp right now is Chris Cole, Chris Cole, Chris Cole, Chris Cole. And we saw why last year. This kid can cover. This kid can come off the edge. I think they're going to make him more of a specialty edge rusher this year, maybe try to fill that Jalen Walker void. So look for him and Chris Jones to be kind of those edge rushers, right? Middle linebacker, CJ Allen, Justin Williams, and then got a walk on and Terrell Foster, who's been playing really, really well too. And then the will linebacker, Raylan Wilson, he stuck it out, had Troy Bowles, who was going to be a good one, decided to transfer out and go look for more playing time and a better opportunity elsewhere. So I think that says a lot about Jalen or Raylan Wilson, excuse me. And then Chris Cole and Crua, Anthony Crua, I believe his name is, will also be holding down some of that spot and has been getting a lot of good reviews from intel from camp as well. And don't forget Zayden Walker, 5-star who just came in. He's going to be on the bench, learning how to play, working on his body, getting college linebacker size ready. So in my opinion, I think on the offense and the defense for UGA, the linebacker room and the wide receiver room can be the absolute best in the country. So really excited for GJ just to see some of this on display.
We have a super talented team, and I'm excited to see what this G-Day brings about in this new NIL era where half these teams aren't even having spring games. We're still having ours, but it's not going to be televised. Neither Cheeto nor I will be able to make it, so we're really going to be piecing together, and we'll do our best to understand what happened, and it'll be an exciting recap episode talking about what we learned from G-Day, and I'll look forward to that. But it's totally different, and who knows? This could be the last G-Day. Mark my words. I hope that it's not, but at this rate, it honestly could be. So we'll look forward to it. But there's many other exciting things happening around the state of Georgia. Most importantly, and front and center, is that of the Masters in Augusta, Georgia. Cheeto, what dogs are making a run for it, and what is the day looking like? I saw that Scotty was second at the time when I saw. And for you guys who are like me and just stopped paying for cable because it became irrelevant, not during football season, the Masters app is free, and it is like round the clock coverage and gives you great behind the scenes details. So I recommend checking that out immediately.
Yeah, I mean, the Masters at Augusta National is obviously one of the majors, most people's favorite major. Being here in Georgia, obviously we're a little bit biased, but the weather has been absolutely great. As you mentioned, Scotty, as it stands, is 4 under in second place. Justin Rose, as we speak right now, is 8 under. He's about to finish up hole 17. So right now he's the leader in the clubhouse. I do have both Sepp Straka and Hensley, some DGDs in my Masters pool with some buddies. So they're like 1 or 2 over. So they're not doing great right now, but hoping that they do. They're leading their top 10 in the FedEx Cup. So hopefully they continue to play some good golf. So I'm really excited. I'm actually going to play in Augusta on one of their sister courses next month with a buddy of mine. So it's golf season, man, except for the weather up here in Chattanooga. So if you're out here, man, it's a good day to go play some, and even better to watch, being this is Thursday, tomorrow's the cut. And then obviously the weekend will be absolutely epic. So can't wait.
Yeah. See if you find out about that Tiger Woods course that they just announced.
Yeah. You mentioned that.
In Augusta, supposedly it's connected to the Augusta National branch. It's going to be separate, but it's like maybe on their land or something like that they own, but it's going to be a par 3 course, a 9-hole course. So interesting to see about that. But Tiger Woods is going to design it top to bottom, and I think they're going to like name it after him or something like that. So we shall see. But Tiger Woods is making a killing right now in golf. He's doing it all, isn't he?
Everything on the fringes. Yeah. I wish he'd be playing. He had the Achilles, so hope to get him back. That body is just breaking down on him. But yeah, not only Masters, obviously we've talked a little bit about the playoff push as it's kind of been really heating up here. Keegan, where the Hawks at? Where do they stand? What is the fan base? What is the team trying to accomplish as far as positioning goes?
Well, currently we're in a play-in situation, but we're just trying to get into the upper half of that. So we end up playing, I believe it would be 4 teams, 4 teams, 4 teams. So we're in a play-in situation, but we're just trying to get into the upper half of that. So we end up playing, I believe it would be 4 teams, 4 teams, 4 teams. So we're in a play-in situation, but we're just trying to get into the upper half of that. So we end up playing, I believe it would be 4 teams, 4 teams, 4 teams. So we're in a play-in situation, but we're just trying to get into the upper half of that. So we end up playing, I believe it would be the Magic, and that would be for a seventh seed. And the Magic just came on strong, kind of right when the Hawks, who started to really gel with all their new pieces after the trade.
7-8 play, 9-10 play. The winner of 7-8 is the 7th seed, like you mentioned. The loser plays the winner of the 9-10. The loser of the 9-10 goes home. Those two play for the last spot, which is the 8th spot.
Right. So to sum it up, in summation, if things go well for the Hawks, they're hoping to land in the 8th position to kind of play for the 7th spot. And if things don't go well, they'll play either the Bulls or the Heat, I believe.
Yep. And in the Western Conference, we have the Los Angeles Lakers, who have been highlighted this year by the trade for Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic. And last night, they faced each other as Luka returned to Dallas in what people have had circled on their calendar for quite some time. But listen, this man went for 45, 8 and 6. I'm telling you, Luka can sleepwalk his way into 30 points and 10 assists any night. He is such a weapon on offense. The whole ecosystem works around him. 16 for 28 overall, 7 for 10 from three-point land. And when he's shooting like that, he is just unbeatable. And the Lakers are hunting for the 3 seed, which would be the best seed finish that they've had since their 2020 championship, the bubble ring, as everyone likes to call it. But home court, and then you don't end up seeing OKC until the Western Conference Finals. That is the best case scenario. And in order to do that, they have to win one of their next 2 games, the first being against Houston, the 2 seed, and then the last against the Portland Trailblazers. So if they win their next game, they'll be the 3rd seed. They'll have a 50-win season in the West. And again, the best since they've had since 2020. And let me just go on record and say this about the Lakers, just very calmly. There's no guarantees or anything. But this Lakers team is so good and so well coached. Plain and simple. They have great players. They're undersized in the front court, given that the Mark Williams from Charlotte trade fell through. But other than that, well coached, really dominant. The coaching staff, Scott Brooks and Nate McMillan, who used to be a coach for the Hawks, with JJ Redick. I really love this team, and I think they can make some noise in the playoffs. So really excited to lock in and watch this LeBron run, because this Luka chapter is LeBron's last, undoubtedly. So let's see what they can make out of it.
Yeah. Is it a situation where what are your expectations in this run? Are you kind of just like, it sounds like you're just letting it see and you're going to be thankful for however it turns out, but do you have
to a degree, because this move is for Luka being 26, this move is for the future, right? But you still have a LeBron. You have Austin Reeves playing at all-star level. I think worst case scenario, if they get the 3 seed, because that's the best possible route, that you face a team like OKC in the Western Conference Finals. I think that should be the bottom. You may not win that, but if you do and you get hot, there's no telling. What if Cleveland or Celtics get knocked off? What if OKC gets knocked off? Then I think the Lakers will be in a really good position. So this is all you can ask for: health, good seed, and avoiding the other team that nobody wants to see in the bracket. That's how this game works. And the Lakers are in a primetime spot.
Yeah, and let's say it goes perfectly the Lakers' way, they end up in the finals. Who do you expect that they would see from the East?
Given how the seeding lines up, I think the Boston Celtics are really what the Lakers want to be. Just switchy with the wings. You have role players who are stars. You have stars who are stars. Good defense, a lot of shooting, and they're the championship. They're champions because Joe Mazzulla is a great coach. So to me, that's what it looks like, but this game isn't played on paper. So let's see how the seeding works, how the matchups work, because, a team gets hot one game, it could go 6 games, it could go 7, and then anything can happen. So it's a toss-up, but I like where the Lakers are at, and I like what they've done since the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think the East is just a little bit more competitive this year, so we shall see. And in my little sports corner and millions apparently around the globe, I've been paying attention to wrestling, and Wrestlemania is the weekend after this weekend, the Super Bowl of, some people would like to say, actually, I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, WrestleMania is a big deal. And with the storylines have been great. Maybe we'll talk more about some of those next podcasts. But the one thing I'll say is that it's just been completely awesome seeing the European crowds be so invested and hype on this road to WrestleMania tour. You know, I read or heard apparently that they hadn't even planned to do this big European tour. Cheeto, they're doing a crazy tour around Europe, and the crowds are just so lit. Like they've been extremely hype, singing, chanting, like kind of bringing the European soccer vibe, but just nonstop hype, like louder than college football, honestly, at times, louder than Eastern Scandinavian basketball games that I've seen, like Ukrainian basketball or wherever the hell it is where they have those hype basketball games. Like hype is hockey, hype is any sporting event you could think of. So it's been highly entertaining watching that, and that's kind of been leading up to WrestleMania. So we shall see. But kudos to WrestleMania for having a global brand taken off. And apparently they weren't even going to do any of that until, they committed to John Cena and this farewell tour. And then he realized, oh man, like I have all these schedule conflicts. I'm filming overseas. I'm filming in Europe during this time period leading up to WrestleMania. He's like, well, I guess we could just, bring Raw and SmackDown overseas, right? Haha. Like kind of, tongue in cheek, but like kind of saying it like it's a shame we can't do that. And they're like, well, I guess we could. So that's kind of how it all came to be. And now they're just had this crazy legendary European run leading up to WrestleMania. So we'll talk more. I'll talk more on the storylines next week. And for our sake, between me and you, I'll edit that up just to make it clean and cohesive. But you want to do your epic?
Yeah, I mean,
close. Yeah,
I'm repping the hat. I'm repping the hat. So, Atlanta Braves till I die. But right now, the way things are going, we might have some fans that wish the Braves were shipped off to Europe currently. But listen, as we get healthy, things will start to pick up. They are split right now in a series with the Phillies 1-1. Game 3 is tonight, final homestand with the Phillies before they go on the road. They're currently 2-9. So terrible start. Some people are panicking, but again, given the context, give it some time. Get Spencer Strider back, get Acuna back here, get the rest of the team back, and let's see what this team really is before we make a decision on if it's a lost cause or not. So not great right now, but listen, we are about to be in the dog days of summer with football, the dog days of summer and baseball, and all the things. So take your time, take a breath. Braves are going to be okay, and we'll get it done. So, yeah, that's what I got around sports, around Georgia, and around the country.
And from Mars, intergalactic, intergalactic global gobble ball is.
Really but yeah, man, if that's everything that you wanted to get out, man, I feel like that's a full podcast. We have a convergence of sports right now, some major stuff, playoffs, Masters, college football about to pop off before it goes really quiet. So looking forward to the rest of spring and summer.
Yeah, and right after G-Day, we'll talk kind of about what we learned from G-Day, but also we'll start to really get an eye about the transfer portal, and that'll kind of give us a better view of what the team looks like moving into summer. And hopefully, I guess we expect to unfortunately lose some guys, but maybe we stand to pick up some talent as well. So
yeah, I expect Kirby to have this roster thoroughly vetted, for lack of a better word, to know exactly where he needs help and exactly where he's probably expecting to lose some as well. So it's not done until it's done. So we'll just wait with any breaking news. And obviously we'll have Jared Curtis and that whole thing coming down the road. So Keegan, appreciate you taking the time to hop on here. We had a two-parter this time. So lots of stuff to talk about. Dog Nation, make sure that you guys tap in with us wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And as always, guys, you know what it is. Off the leash.